I used to work at my ex-father-in-law's law office, which was a large 2-story historical building, a little over 100 years old. I worked there off and on for about 15 years. During that time, my coworkers and I witnessed numerous strange events that baffle me to this day, ranging from benign footsteps to items being flung to the ground. Often I would take a late lunch so I could stay at the office while the others left first. One day I heard the microwave door open in the kitchen, which was adjacent to the waiting room. This was a newer stainless steel microwave with a handle, so you had to pull it to open it. I got up and shut it and sat back down at my desk. About 10 minutes later, the microwave door opened again. I got up, closed it, sat back down. This happened 3 different times within the lunch hour. I didn't feel afraid, and honestly, I didn't really think much of it. My strangest encounter was the day my ex-sister-in-law and her 2 kids were visiting. I was talking to them in the waiting room, and they were all sitting in chairs. Like I said, the waiting room sits right next to the opening kitchen door. Suddenly, the kitchen light came on. At the exact same time, 2 paintings in the waiting room fell to the ground. We were all pretty stunned, but not really afraid. We used to have this very old school timestamp machine that was about as heavy as a brick, used to build a house with slightly similar dimensions, although a little more square. My coworkers and I lost count of the times it fell to the ground, even though it was always hugging the wall near the outlet and never even close to the edge of the counter. We would often hear a crash, and there it would be, on the floor. At one point, the timestamp machine was in my coworker's office, sitting behind her on a table, and it would fall to the ground while she was sitting at her desk. She finally moved it to the kitchen area, and it continued crashing to the ground periodically, when no one was occupying the room. Sometimes, when we arrived to work that morning, it would be on the floor. It was very weird, but we always just kind of joked about our resident ghost was just up to its tricks. The only time I felt truly unsettled was when I was hanging out in my ex-father-in-law's office after hours trying to fix his computer. It was winter, so it was dark outside, and I was the only person in the office, so it was very quiet. I could hear footsteps upstairs, and the doors opening and shutting in a regular fashion. No slamming. At one point, it sounded like a box was being dragged around, and that was when I decided to woman up and go upstairs to see if I could find the source. I checked all the rooms, and there wasn't a soul there. We often heard footsteps and doors shutting, but this time it freaked me out so much that I refused to stay there alone if it was dark outside. My ex-husband hadn't experienced anything strange and usually just brushed off our stories. I guess he thought it was all in our heads. He finally became a believer one morning when he was working in his office after hours. There was a very large mirror that sat on the mantel of the old fireplace in his office. He said while he was sitting in his desk, which faced the fireplace and mantel, the mirror came crashing to the floor and shattered, making a pretty big mess. I saw the mirror the next day, and it was completely busted. A few years after the divorce, my ex-husband passed away from an acute illness at the age of 38. A few years after the divorce, my ex-husband passed away from an acute illness at the age of 38. About a year after his death, I visited the office to catch up with my old coworkers and ex-brother-in-law, who was there. I asked the old coworkers if the ghost was up to its old tricks, and they laughed and said, of course. It's so strange, and to this day I can't explain it. I have never really believed in spirits. I'm not completely ruling them out though, since I think there are definitely things out there beyond our understanding. Or maybe it can be explained as science we haven't discovered yet. I even wondered for a while if it had something to do with the parallel universes. Who knows? Around a month ago or so, my class went on a school trip. When we arrived, our teachers told us to separate into 4 groups, because there are only 4 rooms in the house we lived at. It was a 3-story house, and it had a wooden design. I was in a group with 5 other girls from my class. We decided to take the room on the top floor. You had to go up 2 pairs of very steep stairs, and then walk down a small corridor to get to the room. There weren't any windows in the corridor, and there were 6 beds in the room and a small window on one side of the room. When we got there and went to unpack our things, it was actually warm inside, so we tried to open the window, but it was stuck, so we decided to leave it closed. Suddenly, we all felt a light breeze around us. Then someone knocked on the door. I was sitting right next to it at that moment, so I immediately opened it. No one was there. I didn't hear any footsteps either. I thought someone was trolling us and ran away after knocking on the door. But then I realized there were those steep stairs and that it would be physically impossible to run that fast from there. My friends who were in the room heard it too and thought it was creepy. Then I put my backpack on the bed and took my snacks out of it. But then the door suddenly opened. No one was there. We were a bit freaked out. My friends went upstairs to look around the others' rooms. I decided to stay in our room in case something strange happened again. There was this cold breeze around me again, and then I saw something fall on its own. My friend left her phone along with her charger on her bed, and then suddenly both of the things fell to the ground and rolled under the bed. I picked them up and put them back on the bed. My bottle, which was in my backpack, fell to the ground as well. Then my friends came back, and I told them what was just happening. We couldn't explain it. Then another weird thing happened that night. My friend's phone started playing some strange music at a random time during the night. She said that she remembered shutting the phone off so it wouldn't wake us up if someone texts her. Also, the music's name didn't show up on the screen. Neither one of us had an idea of what could have caused this. My friend turned the phone off again, and the music stopped. I felt another breeze in the room. I checked the window, but it was still closed. There was no way the breeze could be from outside. The next morning, my friend left a water bottle on the table next to her bed. It was almost full. Then, we heard our teacher calling our names. It was time for breakfast, and we were going to be late. We rushed out of the house. Then our teacher locked it right after we got outside. When we finished breakfast, our whole class went back to the house to put our sportswear on and get ready for the activities ahead. I noticed that my friend's water bottle was nearly empty. I was the first one to enter the room, and I didn't see anyone drinking from it. We were also the last ones that left the house before breakfast. We wondered who drank from it. The room was also very cold. We decided to visit our friend's room, and it was warm there, which we found strange. How could only one room be so cold, while the rest of the house was warm? Even the halls had a warmer temperature than our room. We checked the heating, and it was on. We thought there was a ghost or something there. I heard that putting salt in the corners of the place which we think is haunted will prevent strange things from happening there. So my friend and I went to the canteen and took some salt. We put the salt in the corners of the house and waited for something we couldn't explain to happen again. But nothing like that has happened again for the rest of the trip. Any idea what it could have been? This photo was taken about 2 days ago. I was leaving for work, already running late, and the way my driveway is, I'm always facing up towards the window. As I was backing out, I noticed an odd shape in my window, so I snapped a quick picture. It didn't really dawn on me to go check it out because I was already running late for my night shift, and my coworkers have to wait for me to get there so they can go home. So I wanted to get there quick. It was only until I got to work that I noticed my phone corrected the image a bit due to it being nighttime. I was pretty shocked by what I saw, but I thought it might have just been pareidolia. I didn't worry too much because I knew I'd be home in just a few hours. As soon as I got home, I swept through the house and confirmed there was no way anyone came in or was inside. Every window is locked, and I don't use my front door. I enter through the garage. To answer a few questions about the photo, no, I don't own any cardboard cutouts. No, the window was not open. It's sealed shut, and just looks like that. And the light is on, so it looks like there are people home when I leave. The room itself is not an attic, and is a storage room / spare bedroom. And I live completely alone in a very rural area. I didn't bother calling the police because I didn't find any strange misplaced items or any signs of something, so I wanted to wait it out. As for the history of the house, it is about 200 years old in the northern region. A few people have died in the house, but I have no info about that. I have experienced other paranormal instances like footsteps going up the stairs and knocking on the doors. And this is the first time I've captured a photo of something paranormal in nature. In the room itself, there was absolutely nothing between the curtains that could have caused this. I very rarely experience any instances for the years I've lived at that house, and I can only name a handful of times I have experienced something. I have a Ring doorbell that caught nothing, and this is the only photo I got. So a few nights ago, I woke up during the night for some reason. I laid there a minute trying to determine why I was awake. I decided to turn over and get more comfortable since I did not have to pee. I turned over and I saw a creature sitting on my husband. I laid there looking at it in shock, thinking maybe I was seeing things since I just woke up. I was staring at it, taking its features in. It was the size of a young child, maybe 5 or 6. It had upturned horns with grooves twisting around them. Its skin was a dark mud color. As I laid there for about a minute taking this in, the creature realized I was seeing it, I guess, and it turned its head to look over at me. Only its head moved to look at me, and I could see clearly it was an adult from its face, and the fact it had breasts. It looked at me for about another minute, and I had the realization this was not a dream, or me seeing things after waking it had been too long. So I reached out and shook my husband while this thing was just looking at me still, and I was watching it the whole time trying to wake him to see if he saw it too, or I'm going crazy. It took about 30 seconds to wake him, and as soon as he started to come to, the creature just vaporized and disappeared like fog or mist. I didn't realize until my husband and I were talking about it that it could be one. He said he had a sex dream that night. I thought this was a succubus, but I don't see any info, only of them being child-sized. It had greenish eyes, and it had no clothing on, but its body features were not very detailed, if that makes sense. I could see it had breasts, but no nipples. She was sitting on her chest. She was straddling him on her knees, like female on top position, straight up, not leaning over. I feel like I broke her concentration or focus when she realized I was looking or awake. He didn't believe me. Then 2 nights after this, he woke up and saw a figure sitting on the side of the bed, but it was dark for him to make out features, just the silhouette from the moonlight and the eyes. Then last night, I woke up to this overwhelming feeling. Something bad was happening, like dread. I didn't see anything, but in the morning, husband said he woke up feeling something on the bed. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please give a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. Perhaps click the bell for notifications, and remember, hell is empty, and the devils are here.